um, and that one's sung in rounds of 4, 2, or 7. Um, and you can like weave in the names of children, or for example, if I was singing anything to a person in ceremony, them inside the rounds. Okay, and without further ado, thank you so much to our wonderful guest speakers. Look forward to hearing from you.
Inchi maniavu kecha malea nepo sewa te yak yehu nate kame yehu nate kame. My name is Sewa Valencia. I am Pascuayaki Yoeme and Apache, and I am grateful and thankful and humbled to be here with you incredible souls that are saying yes to this work that is needed in the world. I'm here to support, I'm here to learn, I'm here to be with. Together, we're going to do this because it's going to take each and every one of us to do this work, and we need each other. So these spaces that we find and we come together in this way, I thank Creator. And I thank you for being willing, because you can be anywhere, but you're here today. And I'm blessed to be with you. And I'll pass it over to my sister here, Ana.
Hello, good morning, or in California, it's good morning. My name is Ana Maria Lugo, and I am a healing arts practitioner, including EFT, Reiki, and sound. And so it's an honor to be with you here today, and thank you, Sewa, for the invitation to join you.
So what I feel compelled to bring forth to you, because this has been my work as an adult woman learning to read and write. I didn't know how to read the prayers. I didn't know how to connect deeper, because we were always taught, you go to church, you read the Bible, you learn the prayers and you speak the prayers, but I couldn't read them, so I didn't know how to speak them in that way. So what I did and what served me was singing. Whatever flowed through me, whatever came to me, that was my connection to Creator. That was the purity. And then when I added the drum, then that connected my heart to the pulse of everything that is. And so I speak this to you because recently, what has been offered to me in the remembrances, at birth, Creator all gave us a tone. And when we use this tone, when we use this voice, we use this instrument that is ours alone and unique to us, and we join the universal pulse that is everything around us, we're able to sing the song of creation. So as Sisters of the One Drum, how it has come through us is through the ceremonial drum. So we are women that gather on the ceremonial drum, which is very taboo in some places and not welcome, because we are women on the ceremonial drum. In the past, it's only been men. And so we have been under fire, but because this is a Creator guided process, we do it in this way, not because we're women empowered and we could do it. No, it's because we needed to come together in that one pulse, in that one rhythm, and that one understanding, and that one prayer, and that one heartbeat together, each and every one of us lifting our voice as women, as sisters, as mothers, as daughters, as aunties. And I watched, because I told Creator, I don't know if I can do this, Creator, because, it's not part of my learning. And I'm going against everything and everyone, even my own people, even my people on the reservation. And I've been shut out of communities that I've been a part of my lifetime because I'm on the ceremonial drum singing prayers with the women. But when I watch 60 to 80 to 100 women on the drum sing their prayers, lift their voice, come in their own medicine, come in their own gifts, Sing their song, like that fire, like that fire. We all know this. We were all from tribal nations. Somehow we all know this because this is the fire. We all know this. We all know this. We all know this. So when we come together in that way, in our own medicine, and our own voice, and our own tone, that is ours solely, that was gifted, that is needed, that needs to be heard, that needs to be felt. We're not singing. It doesn't have to be beautiful. We are praying, and all prayer is beautiful. So I offer you that. I offer you that. We are praying, and all prayer is beautiful, and Creator wants to hear it. So lift your voice. Find that place inside of you, that universal heartbeat that is yours alone. And when we join together, we connect to everything that is, even with our breath. That's why knowing our body, being connected to our body, being connected to the sound, the breath, the heartbeat, brings us back home to the remembrance of who we are, to the knowing of how sacred and holy we really are as women. And we're able to see our connection to one another. So I ask of you to lift your voice, to find that tone within you, so that your voice joins a universal voice, and we can sing and we can pray the song of creation together in our body, in our spirit, in our heart. It's very simple, sisters. It's very simple. We complicate things. You know, as an Indigenous woman, you know, I used to hear, oh, your people are ignorant because, you know, they don't read or write. They don't write down any of their songs. They don't write down their teachings. And my grandfather, he says, sweetie daughter, we speak because we have our tone. And when we speak, you can feel that vibration, you can feel that energy, you can feel the medicine coming. If you were to read it in a book, it's not the same vibration. But when I offer it through stories, through circles, through teachings, you have a better understanding of the vibration of what it is I'm saying, what it is I'm speaking. That's why we sing things in fours, because the first time you hear, the second time you listen, the third time because you have heard and listened, now you feel, and now it's yours to carry. Everything in your being has an understanding of what it is, that tone, and now you use it. Now you pray it, now you sing it, now you bring it forth in your way, in your tone, in your pulse. That's why there's a drum in every culture, because it's to bring us back to that universal heartbeat that is each and every one of us. Each and every one of us come from the dark place to the light. And we have to spend our time finding that pulse, that rhythm of us, that heartbeat of us. We know our mother's heartbeat, and now we have to do our best to find our own and our community that we can share and join the universal heartbeat of us all. So I'm asking you to be vulnerable, to open up your voice, to find that place within you, to give yourself permission to be, because your tone is needed in this world. Your tone is needed in this world. It's not complete without your voice. We are not complete without your voice, without your pulse, without that heart. This is why I'm here, to remind you that your tone, your pulse, your voice is needed, that rhythm of you is needed. And this is why it's so important that each and every one of you are here. I'm humbled to know that you are taking this on, and I'm here to support in whatever way that I can, because your voice is needed. That tone, the community, us coming together as women, as sisters, as mothers, as daughters, as grandmothers and aunties and so forth, heals past, present, future generations. But we have to be willing. We have to be willing to open this up. We have to be willing, little by ways. My grandfather tells me, little by ways, sweetie daughter, little by ways. You got to be out of your mind to do this work, because you got to be in your heart. So out of your mind wasn't meant to be a bad thing. They just made it that. But yes, we have to be out of our mind to do this work, because we have to be in the heart. So you got to know your own pulse. You have to know your own rhythm. So you can walk in that way. You can show up in that way. You can offer and share in that way. But you got to find that pulse. And that comes through breath and body, and being willing to sit still and listen to the music inside of you, to your medicine, to your gift, because it's yours alone. And when you join the universal pulse, well, it becomes a song of creation. And that's what changes and shifts and moves everything. That's why they say the strongest thing that we can do is women pray together, women share together, women offer. And it's scary to some men. And I am in the understanding this is why the brothers have forgotten the medicine of us women on the drum, because it moves something so deep within them when we're on the drum and we're singing our prayers with all our heart, that they don't know what to do with yet. But little by ways, they're starting to shift and starting to support. But we have to do it by lifting our voice and coming together and honoring one another and being willing to make the most generous assumptions of each other. Respecting, listening, caring, and sharing. I'm so blessed to be here with you incredible women, you incredible souls that are here today. I am in humility for the work that you do, because I know with every fiber in my being that it is needed in the world and that you are needed in the world. So treat yourself in that way. Hold yourself in the utmost care, because it is a responsibility. It is a responsibility. And know that you're not alone, that you have support. And every time you lift your voice, smile, because Creator is grateful that he gets to hear you. He gets to hear your prayer and your song and your rhythm and your pulse. And we get to weave a different rug, a different tapestry, a different web. What a blessing. Blessings, blessings upon blessings. Nem hiapsi aliyah. My heart is happy. My heart is happy. Yehunate kame. Luturia eteho. Truth has been spoken here. Oh. My name is Sewa Valencia, and I am the founder of Sisters of the One Drum, an intertribal women's circle that gather around the ceremonial drum for the soul, S-O-U-L, purpose of healing. We're here to sing our prayers. We're not performers. And I let people know that, because sometimes people, think, we're going to perform. I'm like, what you see here today is what you'll see in the living room, what you'll see in the park. We're praying. That's what we do here, is we pray, we lift our voices together, finding that pulse together. So Sewa Valencia, Sisters of the One Drum.
And my name is Ana Maria Lugo, and you can find me at Raising Mommy Alchemy, because I truly believe that our children raise us. And so you'll find our connections there, and all of our, TikTok and website and all of the other information there. But healing arts practitioners, sound, Reiki, EFT. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna Maria and Sewa. And Sewa, were you addressing the group and our ancestors, our benevolent ancestors in Apache? What nation, which of your nation languages were you speaking?
I was speaking my Yoeme language because that's the language uh, that was offered and given. And so I'm enrolled as Yoeme. It's been an incredible journey. So I'm speaking my Yoeme language to you all, my Yaqui
Okay.
language.
Thank you so much. I just love to like share specifically what nations we're sharing when we sing different songs or whatever that is. So I'll give respect like that. This lecture is dedicated to, yeah, really taking a look at a dive into both from a more maybe alternative or modern lens or new age lens, and also through a traditional indigenous lens, as we do. And so thank you just so much for opening Anna Maria and Sewa and sharing from that very authentic, like very firsthand, authentic anecdotal experiences, personal experiences, as well as combining the traditional wisdom, which is just so effective and necessary. Um, and as you know, this has its own class and own portion in this training, because particularly for uh, traditional indigenous herbalism, so just alone practicing the traditional indigenous herbalism effectively, medicine making, and it's all about, remember, the cardinal directions of indigenous herbal medicine making, which a huge point of that was incorporating sound. So it's like we want to hone this in with y'all for the purposes of your traditional indigenous herbal medicine making and practices, for your own self, catharsis as a practitioner, release as a practitioner, neutralizing yourself as a practitioner. It's again one of the main tools we spoke about was using sound to neutralize yourself, check your own baggage at the door, kind of get out of your own way, so to speak, in therapy sessions and healing sessions like that when holding space. And then also for effectively holding healing spaces for survivors. And we did touch on this a little bit, but one of the, when we get into our class about noticing the nonverbal as well as the verbal signs of survivors, and how to accommodate, how to accommodate survivors logistically within your practice, one of the main signs that we'll talk about is uh, imbalances surrounding accessing one's own voice. And I would say that this permeates throughout the entire modern culture. And without getting too tangent-y or conspiracy, but it is our most valuable tool to create our own realities, just on a scientific level, which we will get into. That's why we got a picture of frequencies up, sound frequencies. um, but yeah, it is almost, sometimes I look at modern society and it seems set up to sever us from our own valuable tool of our voice, but especially and particularly for survivors, those of us who have survived sexual and reproductive trauma from a young age can frequently have issues, speaking up, imbalances in accessing one's voice in the various forms, right? It can come from being like extra aggressive. It can come from having what one would see as like outbursts. It can come with feeling as though one, hesitates to speak your own truth or state your own needs or speak up for your own. It can manifest in a bunch of different ways. This is not a diagnosis class, but it can also be one of the most valuable tools in healing on a cellular and more permanent level. Whether in an altered state, whether you're facilitating for survivors, facilitating healing for survivors who are in altered states, or whether the altered state healing, the music actually becomes the vehicle for the altered state. No, because we've talked quite a bit about this course and we'll continue to as well, and always weave that part in, that altered states are certainly not entered or jumped into or experienced only because of ingesting or consuming something. No, like singing itself, fasting itself, disciplined actions, vision questing, sweating, dancing for long periods, all of these things. But particularly chanting and singing, can also become the actual vehicle for the altered state and the most valuable tool for the healing in the altered state. So for all those reasons and more, we carved out an entire 2 hours to the subject to really just keep highlighting that fact. And the purpose of this lecture is so that you walk away with some different perspectives on sound, you know, from our guest teachers, from me, from our breakout rooms, but then also some valuable tools to hone in on what is that, you know. Sewa spoke to, it doesn't have to sound pretty. No, so we'll have a point in this lecture about that, and how, what are some traditional and then more modern tools to actually release that authentic voice of yourself, and help facilitate that in your clients, which can be just that alone, like just being a voice coach or working with sound only as your medicine, like Sewa was speaking to, can be your just main healing modality as a advocate and healing practitioner who accommodates survivors. Again, because of all those reasons, because of the accessing the voice, the literal transmutation of the trauma cellularly while we're accessing our own voice as survivors in all of the ways, right? And advocating is accessing one's own voice and or speaking, no, accessing the voice for the plant nations, for the earth, for the survivors who maybe are not in a place to do that. That's what advocacy is in my mind. And why I'm also dedicated to this course like that. And so why is sound so effective? You know, it is true that you will see, and in my opinion, as a indigenous herbalist and healing practitioner, you can't actually separate healing songs or healing sounds from medicine work. I've never seen it. Well, that's not true. Vipassana retreats. I've seen huge transformations from Vipassana retreats for survivors, and that's all about sitting in the silence. So um, there are some, but by and largely, it's incorporating chanting, prayers, sounds, singing, ikaros, sound bowls, and all of the different ways. No healing instruments, and and part of, you know, why that actually works on a physiological level is that, and this lines up, and you know, I'm a big fan of when the indigenous wisdom overlaps with the scientific wisdom. And so we are going to expound upon in your bonus material some much longer, more in-depth lectures about why scientifically all of reality is actually made of light and sound. You will see this again and again throughout creation stories. So it's like there may be some of us in the class who are not spiritual. Certainly many of us in the class, I'm sure, prescribe to different spiritual beliefs, but no matter your tradition, you know, and based on what you grew up with, I'm sure you can recall right now a creation story or a version of it where then there was light, then there was sound. I mean, it, you know, then they spoke the word. That sounds more biblical right now, but also I'm thinking in, you know, the traditional indigenous creation stories from North and South America. It generally is like singing the earth into existence. Sewa mentioned the song of creation that we're all joining in together. Again and again throughout indigenous cosmology, throughout the continents and different timelines of cultures, sound is seen as one of the main vehicles of creation and reality. And then on a scientific level, when we're looking at like quantum space-time maps, those maps and overlaying patterns are literally made up. I'm not saying it nearly as fancy or complicated as the scientific lectures you're going to watch, but in my mind, because what I literally see when I'm in an altered state are tapestries, and I've talked about this, and we'll get into it more in depthly during this particular class. But for me, for example, in the sweat lodge, when working with survivors, what I'm actually seeing is a spider web and or tapestry of the person, and literal knots and or tears and or hangups, which is interesting how we do like even say like our hangups, no, or I feel broken, right? Like a broken tapestry. And so because literally sound makes up some of those waves that make that tapestry on a physiological level, and light makes up the other threads that are weaving that tapestry of reality together, giving good medicine and or healing sounds and or frequencies. Like if you're dealing with a more scientific client, and or frequencies that are proven to produce healthy cells and conducive to emotional states of release, of somatic release, of comfort, of memory recovery, of decompartmentalization, where we're coming back together again, a feeling that induce a feeling of oneness. We're actually providing material, we're providing physical sound material into the space, which is material to then be woven into that tapestry. And always keeping in mind that this is a training to be trauma informed and accommodate survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma, which in my opinion, one of the more permanent and empowering ways, rather than coming in like, I know this herbal ally, I know this song, and rather than like singing to the person, and we're not like putting that material in their tapestry. In my opinion, as a practitioner, I'm not wanting to come in with my herbs, with my sound healing, with my advocacy, with my knowledge of the laws, with my email templates, or whatever you take away from this course, or all of the above, and kind of like put that in, to the person. But always keeping in mind that we're wanting to work with survivors in a more gradual, nutritive, from the ground up way, and simply create trauma informed spaces that are safe and that have the tools available to survivors for them to then pick up that material and maybe, explore the knots or brokenness and weave their own tapestry together, so to speak. And so that's why it can be such an important practice to not gatekeep. I really don't like that phrase. Let me think of a different way, but like be exclusive about our sound healing tools that we're using when survivors. I would say with this class, you're being exposed to at least 15 different medicine songs, no more, because Michaela's been sharing at discussions, so at least 30 different medicine songs, along with our playlists that like are not of specific initiations or lineages, and isn't going to be taboo, which Sewa mentioned, which isn't going to be taboo. They're general songs for the people, long life, honoring. We're not talking about like I'm teaching you ayahuasca icaros for purging someone or opening their diet, right? We're just doing like very general medicine songs throughout this course. But it can be really important, whatever your sound healing tools are, to offer them in a trauma informed way, which in my opinion, because I have seen a lot of ego and not very sensitive, I would say, ways to provide that material of sound healing, of healthy sound vibration and spaces. It can become very ego-y very quick. Okay. Not sure if any of you have attended some of the healing ceremonies, which are actually you just like tripping while people play the same concert every night, but it's lovely and all, but like definitely distinct and different from, in my opinion, providing authentic, catered to the actual moment, effective sound healing material that is offered in a way that's material laid before humbly the feet of those who are like experiencing the healing, who you're actually there to serve and not perform for, or get praise from, as a practitioner. So, some examples of how to do that could be, not being so exclusive perhaps about the songs, or keeping on your roster if you have been initiated into certain traditions, or no songs that like it's just not appropriate to sing with your or to teach to your clients, and whatever they may be doing. Like if you're using sound healing in your massages, sound healing in your medicine songs in your sweat lodge, like whatever that looks like for you, sharing those. Michaela's shown an awesome example of that throughout this course, which is our living song list. You could have some sort of song list or roster, if sound is something, and I encourage you to use it, and if sound is something that you use in your practice, making it available not only to yourself as a practitioner, but largely to the clients. Again, it's so important for the clients themselves, for survivors, to access their own voice in that. So keeping some sort of playlist, roster, whatever recommended, that are generally very easy to learn and catch on to, maybe even starting with just toning, that's available for your survivors. I'm getting ahead of myself in the lecture, so we need to go on the accessing your voice part. This is about the water. This is a water ripple. Yeah. And I do think, and remember that in your bonus material for this class, and it may be very old news to most of us, but we are going to have some material from Dr. Emoto and some of the studies of how sound of vibration affects water molecules, and we are mostly made up of water, right? And so it's just nice to kind of have those in some of your resources. Like some of the informational videos and studies that we provide to you in the bonus material is for your own edification, is for you to look up and explore as well on the topic, and learn in the various multimedia ways. But a lot of it is for you to already leave this course with resources for survivors, and from all of the subjects that we've covered, like including the plant IDs, including whatever you want to, copy from the, as long as you credit, like copy from the videos, not from our live lectures or course, but like from the bonus material. No, the resource list, for example, any of the PDFs, it's like you will procure that for your own communities and for your practice. But certainly having at least some information about scientifically why sound affects molecules of water, how vibration moves through time space on a scientific level, can be very beneficial when providing resources for survivors who may not be as spiritual or may not have grown up in a environment that's necessarily like traditionally indigenous, or has a cosmological view where they're just like, oh yeah, of course, like sound and light created everything. It can be interesting to just note that like physically we're all water, and pretty much all water, and so is the earth. And sound is one of the fastest ways which we have found to travel through that and make a change quickly, which I think we can all agree is in order. Oh yeah, and this is just weaving the tapestry. This is just we've already talked about that. So it's the importance of providing material into the space, and as well as neutralizing your own body, and like literally promoting healthy cell reproduction within the esophagus, within places that as a survivor you may have scar tissues, physically providing vibrations to help us heal, and also spiritually or mentally or metaphysically, if that's something that you're working with, provide material for the tapestries, spider webs of the souls to be spun whole again. If you are a practitioner who's not particularly spiritual, or working with clientele who maybe are not, for example, your setting may be more like a ketamine clinic, it may be more clinical, or just talk therapy, can certainly induce altered states. And so incorporating sound in any way, providing sound in the space. Anna Maria touched on it for sure. Like just having that sound vibration together as a family in the home, in your office space. No, you can just, it's one of these healing tools that, again, not contraindicated for if you're on antidepressants, not contraindicated if you're in dieta. No, it can access anywhere and move through time space like that. Some of the best comfort I've ever gotten at the lowest points of my life was simply like a friend sharing a medicine song with me from across the globe. We're also learning songs in this course, throughout this course, that are some of the spirit songs of certain plant herbal allies. And so like being able to call on their spirits from across the globe with sound. We curate and make ourselves neutral, so that in the moment we can feel our authentic selves and or spirit, depending on your beliefs, have us reach into our bundle of medicine songs and or sounds or instruments, and offer the appropriate one for the person in the moment. This is very key, and this is part of getting out of our own way when accessing our voice like that, so that we're sure to bring forth material and healthy. Sewa said bad medicine or good medicine, which is really a traditional indigenous, especially North American way to see and kind of talk about medicine. Sounds like that, because right, if it's creation, you can certainly be offering up maybe something that's not so advantageous into the space. And it can be very hard as a practitioner to be real with yourself, and even know on your own if you're actually having like offering, as Sewa said, good medicine, good sound medicine, and or we could say in a less spiritual way, like healthy vibrate. If you're offering into the space sound material and vibrations which are conducive to the growth of healthy cells and conducive to mental clarity and a heightened like serotonin boosting emotional state, and or like opening, release, feeling love, feeling nurtured, calming the nervous system, all the good things that we're wanting for survivors. And so it can be, again, with sound, practitioners as well as survivors and clients can certainly have many hangups and their tapestries, many dips and hangups in the tapestries about self-doubt, insecurities, self-limiting beliefs that we've grown up with and or we're told throughout our lives. It can be very frequent with survivors that we're told like not to tell anyone, or coerced into kind of dynamics that can go on like that, even as a way of life, no, to not speak up for our needs. And so it's just so important to make sure when on this path of singing your medicine that we are our main goal in wanting to offer sound that's conducive to healing and accommodating for survivors. Our main goal is for allowing our bodies and vocal cords to literally be played. And, you know, I am quite spiritual. And so in my vision, be played like an instrument by spirit, no, in that sense, or by the plant spirits or by benevolent spirits. So that literally this is just my instrument, like my windpipes, literally, like as we call them, my windpipes. And it's just like moving through, but it's not even at that point me singing or having sound come through anymore. And that's a sentiment that you can hear expressed again and again throughout indigenous cultures and healers who work largely with sound as a modality, that like they could feel spirit coming through, or it just flowed effortlessly. Some of the practitioners who maybe are less spiritual like that, but still the feeling of it flowing effortlessly and getting out of your own way. When you're having that experience as a practitioner and the sounds moving through in that way effortlessly, that's a sign that we're working on the right path and offering effective sound healing, effective sound material conducive to healing for survivors. And of course, the most important guides I would say is, you know, are you following the guideposts, and are you like staying open to observing your clients and or the groups nonverbal body language? Like, are they crouching down? Can you see their nervous system literally like resting as the sound's coming through? And this is like whether your sound healing's coming through playlists, whether it's coming through your singing bowls, your voice, your medicine drum. We all may work with sound in different ways, although I am a stickler for just like straight voice, because it's just so basic. And again, like whether we're in prison, being raped literally in the moment, in a hospital, in a jail, the voice is just always going to be there, whereas instruments can be taken away. And so it can be really important to access that, to transmute the situation. But no matter what tool we're using to access and provide that sound material in our spaces with survivors, we want to be feeling that it's flowing effortlessly and or that spirit's moving through in a benevolent way. We want to be seeing that the body is almost melting, because and Anna Maria touched on this with her 21-year-old son or daughter, I don't remember, but child, and that beautiful story that's already associated. No, that's already associated with her when her daughter comes home. And we want to be seeing that like almost, I mean, not overly childlike, but certainly nervous system relaxing state when we're introducing whatever that is, our bells, our playlists, or anything, and not ever stay rigid in our protocol with sounds, not ever stay rigid. To me, that's again not going to be a very trauma informed way. And that's where I can really differentiate between like, is this practitioner having a set playlist or a set playlist that they sing, or a set concert that they offer every single healing ceremony every time? Or does it morph sometimes? You know, is it distinct for every group? Is it distinct, slightly different for every client? And that's going to be, again, another great hallmark of offering authentic and healthily vibrating and comforting sound material into spaces, that actually is interacting in a way with the tapestry of that group, of that person, of the medicine that's being served, of that altered state in that specific time and place. And that's also gonna to me be a great sign, like that you as a practitioner, if that you're actually having spirit move through, that you're actually getting out of your own way, because it would be impossible to plan every single like medicine song of every line of every session, if you're moving authentically and actually being flexible with your client and meeting them where they're at. and open to the fact that you're observing in real time their biofeedback, how it's working for them, and you're able to actually reach into your medicine bundle and pull out appropriate sounds, appropriate playlists, appropriate medicine song for that specific client, that specific moment. In my experience, not all of my clients certainly had my own spiritual beliefs or cosmological backgrounds, were of mixed cultures. And so to me, science can become that fun vehicle through which we can just kind of set politics and, you know, maybe like personal religious beliefs aside for a minute and just come together as humans with that base knowledge that, again, like everything is created from light and sound. Yes, there's memory in our DNA. We all have certain ancestors along our paths who have learned, use the same herbs and unite around what's common in us as human beings. To me, science really becomes that vehicle to communicate with an education with clients, but then yes, as a teacher. Okay, moving on. Physical voice training. So speaking on the topic of our bodies actually, and physically, not even on a metaphysical sense, but like our bodies are a vessel. If you open your mouth like this, no, and look physiologically at the esophagus, it mirrors our anatomy on our bottoms as well. Yeah, we have different things down there, but certainly like the vaginal canal and the yoni looks very, very much very similar anatomy, and the cervix as well, like to the esophagus and the sphincter. I forget the one that's up here, the esophageal sphincter or something like that. I don't know, but it looks similar. That's the point. It's very, very similar. And for those of us who don't have a vaginal canal down there, you know, the anus as well is certainly like very, very similar with the smooth muscle. And it's just like we're this one big portal with a lot of curves and turns and and poop inside. Hopefully on the outside, and it doesn't stay on too long. Nothing like a healthy, good poop. But really, if we like if we're opening our bottoms and opening our tops like this and really letting those sphincters relax, okay, we're no longer in the state of fight or flight where our stomachs are clenched up like this, you know, which again is very common for survivors. We talked about not being able to stomach things, right, with the herbal allies, and we'll get more into that with some of the physical signs of survivors in that class, and symptoms, how symptoms of being a survivor of sexual and reproductive trauma can present. But it can certainly present through closing the sphincters, clenching, holding on to. Our stomachs can shut down, that smooth muscle. So whether we're talking uterus, whether we're talking vaginal canal, anus, any sphincter, the esophagus right here, it can all be like just kind of, again, imbalance, you know, whether instead of assigning unhealthy or disease, just imbalance. And what we're looking for is, again, that state of rest, that state of peace and healthy balance with our survivors and ourselves and our clients. And so some of the physical voice training that we can actually use with our clients and ourselves as practitioners, so like honing our own physical tool, our own physical instrument, our greatest instrument that we have in life, I feel like, is obviously our own bodies. I'm like, look at all this instrument here. It really is, you know, such a good, it's just like, look at these instruments. and this voice instrument is just insane, you know, the tones that we can do. And certainly in altered states, I don't know about y'all, but I've found that I can certainly access tones that I just never have been able to access before, you know, whether, again, I've heard this, I'm not a person who plays instruments as much, I'm more of a dancer, but certainly I've heard this expressed by a lot of musicians, like, again, in the flow, in the zone, and like suddenly the notes are coming out, right, and you don't know where they're coming from, but they're certainly flowing. Same with the voice, like you can hear these different pitches coming out and tones, and a lot of the freedom of accessing these different octaves of tones is in relaxing the smooth muscle and sphincters. So that's going to be like number one for physical voice training. Working on that relaxation. We've gone over so far some herbal allies that can lend itself toward that. Certainly some resources, layers of protection that can add to that feeling of safety. We're going to get, as we move deeper into this training, We're going to get some tools for literally just physically like setting up your healing and office spaces, setting up your whole kind of languaging of your appearance of brand, just the technical issues and the nonverbal and verbal that can go into setting that space. And the name of the game is going to be, for our survivors, we're looking for that sphincter relax. I mean, really, really, really deep down, that stomach just release, that pelvic release, that anal release, that esophageal release. Okay. And this is what, just like any, if you just imagine yourself like a, oh, those dancing things at the car dealerships, right? Like these things. No, this is what we're going for. We're going for dancing thing at the car dealership, those inflatable guys. I'm going to have to put a meme about them on the bonus materials. It wasn't there before, but you know, and that's what we're going for, just so that we can be open and relaxed with our sphincters and our smooth muscles and let the sounds come. That's going to free up space for more sounds, more range of tones, more range of tones. And you know, as it sits now and what we, you know, in modern societies throughout the world, you know, similar to the plant names, just made up by a white guy, just totally made up by a white guy. Like, not always a guy. So sometimes girl, it doesn't really matter the gender, but just like made up. Let's just say that, like just like made up. And largely, yes, by white mainstream males. Same thing with the countries, and same thing with how we sound and what is good. No, and that's certainly like the standards of beauty, the standards of what beautiful sounds are, have changed and evolved over time, and certainly depend on your cultural background. But in general, what we really makes us move to tears when we hear sound, and move to healing when we hear sound, and move to release, you know, of any kind, feeling, emotional release and psychological release when we hear sound, and have it, allow it to move through the water molecules of our blood, and our water in our body, is that range. That's what we're going for, is that range. No, like that, like opera singer and or that just moving, just moves, effective sound has that range. And you know, our standards for what beautiful sound is a lot of times the hang up, the major hang up in between us as practitioners, as well as our clients who may be survivors, accessing that full range of your instrument, of your greatest instrument, which is your personal body. And Sewa certainly, you know, touched on this, which is that you have, and I feel just from talking to her a little bit, like the little bit that I was honored to talk to her for, you know, that's part of why she's dedicated. And Sewa, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of why she's so dedicated to this work as well, is like holding that space for each person who comes over, you know, who's dedicated to that healing and that medicine path in that way, to access their own authentic and unique voice. And I remember her saying this, you know, before class on the phone, like that we all have that unique tone, right? That we need to join in with the sound of creation, very unique, like a thumbprint to each and every single one of us, right? But we have all grown up with these ideas of what the beautiful standard of singing is, which is a very limited range in general. Just like sanity in our brains is a very limited amount of our brain space. Like, I don't mean to like say it like that. And then genius, you know, would be like using more of that brain capacity, just like an excellent singer or excellent dancer or excellent yogi is moving more range, using more of that range of that voice instrument, using more range of your body, no, as an instrument. And so the main tool physically is going to be relaxing those smooth muscles and sphincters. And all the ways that we're going to do that is by incorporating nutrition, herbal allies, physical practices, therapies that we're going to go over, that all just create that state of peace and are conducive to a nervous system which is in a relaxed state and not in a fight or flight state. So it's like, and you can hear when people get scared, you scare the voice out of you, no? You can hear the voice get scared out. Maybe you've had like a nightmare, sleep paralysis, and you like try to sleep, you try to talk, you try to sing, and it like won't come out. Or if someone just scared in real life, something that's going on frequently, our voice can literally go away or become quite squeaky. The range goes away. The range goes away. It's no longer able to be like so loud, no, and so powerful and effective. And so just allowing for those sphincter. And and so here's a couple of just physical exercises that you can also incorporate to relax those sphincters and relax those smooth muscles, in addition to all of the just grandmother nurturing ways that we're just going to, as advocates and eco-sensual practitioners, cultivate that space of relaxation and safety, and really nurture that space of safety. You can also do this too. I'm like, along with that, not one or the other. But and these are just classic vocal relaxation techniques before you would enter even like a classical opera class or something, or Broadway class. Like, just so starting with like, okay, the classic buzz, buzz, buzz. And this is something also in our doula trainings, midwifery trainings, hormone therapy practices, wherever we're trying to just have those bottom releases. And let's try it together for a minute, please. Less than a minute, but 30 seconds. Okay, so and what's nice to do from this space is kind of and you can feel like, I can like feel it's like clearing out my vocal cords now. No. And what's nice to do in this space is kind of lead yourself as a practitioner just daily if voice is something you're working with, but also this can be a very useful and cathartic somatic release practice at the beginning, during, or end of altered state sessions with survivors, is then moving through different tones while doing the lip vibration. So like like just in no apparent order as they come, um flowing with that authenticity and giving permission for your authentic voice, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, and whether or not it's congruent with our modern standard of what sounds beautiful, is one of the major hurdles for between survivors and them accessing their voice again. Or recovering their voice after it's been repressed for a long time, sometimes even generationally. No, in the case of our certain populations which have been marginalized, for a long time. So just kind of like guiding through yourself as a practitioner and a survivor to, with no apparent order, with no apparent order, shift through tones and sounds as they come to them, no matter how it sounds on the outside or what they think of it, vibrating the lips. Okay, that's one. Another one that we do is just like the oming, the toning. Okay, you see this in the Vedas, you see this in and especially like Eastern cultures with the chanting, but also I see it everywhere. I see it in powwow singing. Hear it in techno music. I mean, it's just like opening. It's opening, like physically opening and toning. So, depending on your traditional practice, you could go with like the different chakric sounds. Certainly, can be a wonderful practice. You can go with like the chants, a couple of which we've learned in class, or simply anything. And I'd like us to try that together. We'll just go with a simple om, a simple, oh no, yum is I think the like Vedic throat one. Yum. And so toning just as a practice, like along with the vibrating the lips, is a wonderful way to relax the sphincters and smooth muscles and just access more range. Okay, access more range. Range is what we're going for an effective medicine sound, and to discover or uncover or remember one's authentic and very personal medicine sounds, from your lineage, from yourself, like that. And another wonderful practice about doing like the toning like that is not only is it honing your physical voice, but also, and your physical instrument of your voice, but also the unison. No, the fact that like if you have two toning forks next to each other and you ding one first, like the other one will automatically start resonating with the one next to it, with the one, or a guitar, you can like tune an entire like stringed room of stringed instruments that way by like going and tuning, and they'll naturally like resonate together, like the water molecules. So it can be a wonderful way as well to like open that safe space for survivors. Anna Maria touched on that when she said that she thought it was her experience of her daughter's healing path that it was perhaps sped up and or facilitated more quickly by the fact that they were all doing it together. And she spoke on like neutralizing that entire space in the home. And so just that toning and that openness. I don't know if y'all noticed, but we all kind of like finished together without really saying it. And at one point we kind of like got on the same frequency all together, and you can hear how the quality of that sound really changes. It becomes crisp and clear and effective. And effective. That's what we're going for. Crisp, clear, and effective. Yeah, so those are, and then the last practice for and there's in your bonus material, I'm gonna list a couple of voice trainers who do online trainings, which are wonderful if you want to dive into, this again could be just your whole own practice, like just any one of these classes. I feel can certainly be just like, just with this you could do and offer so much healing to survivors and advocacy in this way. But I will offer in the bonus material a couple of like just physical voice trainers that do online classes and everything if you really want to like go fully with this practice. But the last little simple one that can be quite universal is working with the breath. And we see this again in yoga. We see this and certainly like midwifery and doula traditions. We see this, I know, in the sweat lodges. Breath is one of the main tools that I work with. Sundance as well. It's like we're alimentando and actually getting nurtured by the breath, so it's like comes up again and again. And of course it is the essence of life. Without even what a couple minutes of breath, we're out of here. So our capacity to really hold that clear, crisp, effective thread, as it were, for as long as necessary in the specific instance where we're offering this sound healing or sound healing sound material. We want to work with the breath and the lung capacity, right? And our own voice and breath connection to the actual rhythms of the sun and the earth. The actual, and Sewa again touched on this with the drum and the heartbeat and connecting back in with that rhythm and finding our rhythm, and syncing our rhythm then with, if it's not already, finding congruency with our rhythm, our personal rhythm, and that of the earth and sun, so that we are living in homeostasis like that, both for our earth and our clients and the self. And so this is my last like kind of like physical voice training practice that I like to do, which I call the ocean breath. This is a main one I do with our midwifery and doula students, and also like any clients I have for birthing. And it just sounds like the ocean. There's lots of different breaths. There's so many different breath practices, like the like triangle, the square, breathe in, breathe out, the ring of fire breathing. For me, I'm partial to the ocean breath, because literally I'm at the ocean right now and I can hear while I'm teaching the actual breath of the ocean just as it comes and as it goes. And again, not to get like too cheesy or like, yeah, everything overlaps with science. Science is slowly and um sillily slowly and sillily figuring out and confirming a lot of what indigenous wisdom has held for a long time. But truly, we all came from the ocean on a scientific level, like legit. The genetic makeup and the physical makeup molecularly of ocean water is almost like just very, very extremely a lot similar to amniotic fluid in the womb. Legit, like, no, again, we're not doing metaphors here. I'm not like, oh no, it's metaphorically like the earth is my mom. No, like for me personally, yes, I'm spiritual, but I physically believe that no, physically the earth is my mother, and I see her kiss my father, the sun, every day. And or for those of you who aren't minors, make love every day, morning and night. That's what keeps a good long marriage steady. You know what I'm saying? The orgasm, they light up the whole sky with their orgasm. Physically, actually, like he penetrates the womb waters with his rays, like I'm watching it literally happening. And from that, all of life is born from those womb waters. And so to me, that is so primordial that I like to connect back in with the ocean breath. That's why I'm partial to the ocean breath. But there are many breath practices for training your vocal cords and your capacity for holding that clear, crisp, effective tone. So let's try the ocean breath together. And it's just going to sound like the ocean, just going to sound like the ocean. And for those of us who want to turn off our mics, please feel free. And this will be the last little one like this, but it's just like the ocean. I'll go first. And then those of us who want to join in, please. And thank you. So it just goes like, visualizing along with your client is huge, huge. So of course for the ocean breath, I just mentioned that now because I am obviously like gonna want to visualize ocean waves with along with the breath. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we're focusing on like 3 physical systems of the body. We're relaxing the sphincters, relaxing the smooth muscles in the body with our, and there's again many variations of these practices. So like if you end up taking, or you've already taken voice training courses professionally, they'll do variations of like these 3 exercises. No, but we're loosening the sphincters and the smooth muscles in that way with the opening and the toning, and it can look like in a professional singing setting more like la 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 la. I'm not a professional singer, you know, but I'm not, but or with our oming like we did, you know, that's to actually open up after we've relaxed, open up and open up that full range, and then the breath to kind of clarify and make that quality of the voice as long and effective as needed for that client in that position. But it can be an important element to just like accessing and working through like legitimately scarred tissue. A lot of us, you know, I know with Western diets can get a lot of acid reflux. Like scar tissue can be for sexual or reproductive trauma, can also be from literally acidic diets. It's some crazy amount, like 50% or more of Americans suffer with like the acid reflux, I forget what it's called, but where the sphincter no longer even works in your esophagus because you're just like having so much acid sitting in the belly. So working with these physical methods along with our herbal allies that we talked about for like disinflaming, we talked about mucilaginous herbs, like I'm thinking mallow right now, bear root, you know, right now for soothing, you know, oats right now for soothing the esophagus, honey, certainly warm tea, not drinking cold drinks in the morning, avoiding like alcohols, avoiding acidic foods late at night, avoiding tobacco and weed smoking. Look, I hesitate because I'm like, ooh, smoke weed every day. But you know, smoking anything, our herbal blends, paper, you know, living in high fire zones as well, you know, those of us in California right now, you know, anything like that can affect the physical training of the voice. So that's all like self-care for your main instrument as a healer. Okay, for your clients who are survivors, again, and this is like, I want to say the 10th time I've repeated this during this class, but it can be a major uh, or the major tool which helps in cellular memory as well as physical memory as well as um, brain memory, you know, of an activation and clarification. Sound can be that major tool. Michaela touched on an important piece of that. Like our memories are associated with sound and smell are, you know, our most ancient senses and can activate those repressed memories, can maybe help to confirm or clarify or otherwise sort out memories that we may have questions on as survivors. Can be an important tool in some of the therapies we're going to go over later in this course, like the EMDR, like the microdosing in an actual effective way, like like these drama therapies. It can be really important to incorporate certain sounds in a resourceful, nutritive way. Okay, not just like throwing like, oh really, this song like reminds you of the trauma, well let's like talk about it all day, or let's like re-traumatize you by just putting it on in an unsafe container. The ways which we can work with sound and memory to achieve and facilitate somatic releases in survivors and ourselves as survivors can be to work with maybe some of the sounds that activate the traumas and triggers while layering that with good effective medicine sounds, you know, while layering that with good effective medicine sounds, which again we've gone over, how do we know if that's a good effective medicine sound? And this brings me back to one of the points we kind of touched on earlier, but is pretty hard to talk about, or I'm still developing my tools to talk about it in a more effective way, because how do you tell someone on their journey, right? Like, yeah, like that's not your authentic voice. Like, first of all, I don't know if it, you know, really, who am I to know if it is or not? And also, how condescending, you know, to say that. And I do hear a lot of that in like healing community, traditional and non-traditional, like traditional indigenous as well. There can be a lot of like, oh, this medicine song is only for this and that. There can be a lot of taboo. There can be a lot of, Sewa certainly touched on a huge one, which is she said out loud, like, I've been shunned even from some of my own people, like on the res, because it's taboo that like I'm gathering women around the drum, the medicine drum, because why? Men have been carriers of the drum like that, and many of the traditional cultures. So, and men have been carriers, you know, or just women have been carriers, either or, like certain genders, certain cultures have been keepers of these specific songs, of these specific vibrations, which we're certainly not here to culturally appropriate in those ways. However, we are here to break past that scarred tissue and clarify those memories and sort out some of those generational entanglements around accessing our voice in an authentic way and an effective way. And along that path and that journey, there may be non-benevolent elements that are in that person's lineage or in that person's mind, or non-benevolent loops, even just again, if they're not spiritual, but just like non-benevolent, non-beneficial or unhealthy loops in the brain, no, from other sounds that were associated with almost mantras that we can listen to daily, you know, like that say, if you actually listen to them, sometimes quite negative things, no, that we're not actually trying to manifest into reality. It can come in the form of just minding, being a lot more mindful and clear what sounds are surrounding your healing spaces and that you allow in your healing spaces for survivors. But it can also come in the form of some of us having somatic releases through sounds, even as practitioners, and or witnessing them in our clients, that you're seeing as an advocate and a practitioner are actually just objectively don't seem to be benefiting the group in a trauma informed way. Like I've literally been, you know, I'll give you a real life example. I've been here for many people to come down and do their ayahuasca diets here in Peru. That's a job that I used to have for like a short window of time for a couple of years. Was like I would be the one that would meet you at the airport, you know, help facilitate the ceremony. I wasn't just running them alone, but like the helper, like, so everything from like helping to clean up your vomit, to make sure you got your mosquito net, to also like singing the songs, to wiping your baby's butt, like I don't know, but that was my thing in the jungle. And so I've seen quite a few, you know, I'm not a person who keeps track or is even great at measuring, but like hundreds at least, I would say, people on their dieta journeys coming down here now, many of whom were on the learning path. So like they're apprenticing in their reality, they're apprenticing to become tabaqueros, ayahuasqueros. A lot of them were locals, but many of them, the ones I've seen mostly who were with that idea that they're apprenticing with a goal in mind, like that, to become their career or their practice, were Westerners, you know, because that's a very linear way to think. And so I've witnessed before, like, you know, we had dieting with us, very, you know, very good psychologist. She had a thriving practice in the northeastern United States. A wonderful person. I like her personally, which I don't like that many people personally, but actually hanging out with her, like very thoughtful, wonderful to accommodate, you know, grown ass person. I didn't feel like I had to hold her hand, like very together. And I would say overall very conscientious of the group. No, a very solid human with certainly lots of expertise. And yet, and yet, she was there dieting, apprenticing. I had been there for several of her diets. And it started culminating to the point, because I know, at least I'm not sure in other ayahuasca lineages, but in the Shipibo Nation in Peru, where I was studying, singing is the main tool through which you learn. And so they're all the time in ceremonies like sing, sing, sing. It's not this like gatekeeping vibe. Like, no, only I sing the Icaros, only I get to sing. Like it's my concert, and then like whatever. Like, no, like after the opening of the ceremony, they want all their students especially to sing, because that's the main vehicle, at least I've learned from them, through which you receive Icaros, you receive and interact with the spirit of the plants, and actually can participate in the co-creation of the ceremony, like weaving those sounds through, you know, those sounds, the Icaros are the vehicle through which ayahuasca does her work and their lineage. And so I'm seeing this like very conscientious grown ass person, okay, who's done many diets, not just one, more than me. I'll tell you now, much more than me. just awful. I mean, I haven't like it got so bad, like she got like started getting carried away with the songs, the sounds that were coming through were like is like sounding like dying cows and people getting raped. I mean, like, and then like the like going to other participants who were in the ceremony and like singing like in their face with it, like screaming to the level where it's like a dying cow, like in your ceremony, in your face, screaming at you. But like her experience in reality, and I'm seeing this as like a co-facilitator, right? And having to reel it in and like talk in a way that's like, hey, like I know you're in your element and that you're experiencing, like for her, what she was experiencing, and I know because I've talked to her, and again, very self-analytical. This is a psychologist we're talking about, like who has a lot of training around sorting out her thoughts, you know. And her experience that she was describing to me is that she was learning that she felt as though what she was hearing was that she was getting like already there, almost like I've arrived, I'm singing Icaros, like spirits moving through me. Like that's what she was feeling. And I can tell you for sure that the rest of the people in the group, because they all came to me and it was like an issue, that was not their experience of her sounds, and they didn't appreciate her like going around to them and their ceremony type of thing. And it was very much like invasive, and for a couple of our people who were survivors, actually like re-traumatizing. No, and so it's a very hard conversation to have, because I certainly don't want to discourage us as practitioners or our clients to explore their full range of sounds. And it also comes back to like your own cardinal pillars of finding your internal compass. And again, staying aware of what type of releases, if any, are coming about through the sounds you're introducing as a practitioner. Do you see their body melting? Do you see like the sphincters relaxing? Are you observing them sinking into their heart space, deep breathing deeply? Is the group in general finding that like same tone together, because that's what we naturally want to do in our bodies? Or is it like this clashing and breaking, and like hiding? You can see people like physically like covering up, like when that sound was happening, like covering, like hiding. And so I think those are like all important pieces to observe within ourselves and our clients. And some of my favorite tools for kind of reeling that in, if you're a facilitator in a space and or on a journey with a client, if it's one-on-one and you're simply like coaching somatic release through the voice expression, is to mirror a lot of the techniques that we're going to go over, like in EMDR, in cellular memory release, yoga therapy, and a lot of these traditional and more new age ways of checking in with the body throughout the experience, like the more somatic ways, right? So like if a client, for example, like I hear that you're like getting really loud. This is some language I might use at a birth as well, which is like someone's in a very altered state. I'm not trying to like voice is one of the main tools you could use in a birth effectively to like help someone move through it, because it's like sphincter release is the name of the game, right? And so like I'm not going to come in and be like, hi mama, like I've noticed that you've been using a lot of energy and like running your like vocal cords dry to the point where your like voice is cracking because you're screaming like at the top of your lungs. Like it's more like, I'm not going to say it like that, but I might come in and like sink in with the mama or the client who's birthing, breathe along with them, tone along with them, and ask them prompts like, are you feeling that sound in your bottom area? Like, are you feeling releases right now? Are you feeling clenching right now? Like, how does that sound feel in your body, in your space? Those are some types, and we'll go more over that languaging and questioning in our therapies piece. But those are just like some pointers, because somatic release is very personal. There's no right or wrong. It's all about freedom of release. And also, as facilitators, as practitioners who may be one-on-one or maybe in groups, we want to also be able to gently provide guiding posts, no, for how that effective sound moves through and provides and facilitates somatic release in a healthy way. Some of those guideposts are going to be like the body language, the nonverbal, allowing yourself and the client to sink into how those different sounds actually physically feel in the body and what changes are physically taking place because of that. Some of my favorite traditional practices for finding your own songs, and what we just went over as far as those guideposts for somatic releases, and like how do you really tell, like, is this just me trying to sound pretty? Is this my authentic voice? Are my clients like re-traumatizing themselves and their bodies and just ingraining like the cries for help, or is this like actually processing something? like a lot of those guideposts that we went over and will continue to go over as far as like your internal moral compass are some of the ways which you can differentiate if you're receiving, because I get that question a lot. You know, I'm big on the everyone and my students feeling free when they leave our courses and certification trainings to explore their own spirit songs, receive their own medicine songs, receive their own ikaros, like receive their own medicines from the plant nations. We've shared so far one cedar song with you throughout this course, and yet it's certainly not the only cedar song. And there will be hope. My prayer is there will be infinite cedar songs out there, and we can all receive from her nation like that or their nation like that. And so those same guideposts we can use to differentiate within ourselves. You know, am I receiving a medicine song or a plant spirit song or a benevolent healing song right now? What is the song I'm receiving for? Are these tones just my own personal release, or am I truly receiving a song that's for others? That comes from checking in with yourself, feeling it in your body, receiving messages through your dreams, and using those same guideposts to guide that. Within that context, with those guideposts in place and those cardinal directions of receiving your medicine songs in place, some of my favorite traditional practices for receiving those songs are going to be dieting plant medicine. And so when I say like dieting plant medicine, there's different ways to diet plant medicine. I've referenced some of those ways. For example, in the context of the Shipibo and the indigenous Shipibo nation in the Amazon, they have a whole very specific culture around dieta and what that means, which is like there's a specific opening, there's a specific close. They use icaros and mapacho tobacco to open and close your diets. In between those diets, every other night, we'll go drink ayahuasca, but we'll also drink the other plant that we're dieting on the other alternative nights. There's a whole process. We'll do our plant baths, you know, every morning after ceremony, a whole thing. There's certain foods you want to avoid. I feel like when we as Westerners hear dieta or diet, we think like, oh, but what foods? Oh, you avoided salt and that was your diet. Like, what's your diet? When you're dieting a plant, your main nutrition, and my understanding of it from the indigenous perspective, is that your main nutrition becomes that plant spirit. So the vehicle through which you are interacting and being nourished through that plant spirit and actually getting to relate and know on a very deep level that plant spirit may be ayahuasca diet, right? In that Shipibo context, the ayahuasca diet, you opening and closing that finite amount of time to explore your relationship with the plant you're dieting, ayahuasca becomes the vehicle through which the spirit of, for example, if you're dieting Bobinsana or Chiricsanango, becomes woven into your tapestry. The Icaros and the ayahuasca are the vehicle through which you're receiving the other plant you're dieting, right? But we could also use, for example, a plant bath diet, which I think we already had as a practicum. Is it for this one? Is it for this one?
It comes a little bit later. Yeah, I think it'll be for this.
Okay, we're going to do our own plant bath diets throughout this course. And one of the classes, there's a prompt, you know, that I wrote for following through with your own just plant bath diet, which, I think it becomes after our medicine making, which makes sense because like first we'll share information on how to make your own cold plant baths and your own flower essences. And for example, you can make your own flower bath mixture in a pusanga and keep it for your plant bath diet, or you can make it fresh every day. But the important thing with the dietas is going to be that the plant baths then become the vehicle. Like rather than ayahuasca, the plant baths become the vehicle through which you're opening up time to diet the plant and receive songs, receive information from that plant, receive chants from that plant, receive healing sounds from that plant, receive visuals, dreams, realizations, initiations, whatever that path is for you, cleansings, healings through that plant spirit. So you could do your cold plant bath like every time, every day at the same time. And that part's important about dieta, staying consistent. Just like any relationship, you build a strong relationship with your partner, with your children, with your friends, with anyone, with your learning material, through consistency. No. And so you could use the plant bath diet as a very traditional practice, on the feet, over the head. There's different forms. We'll give you a prompt as I've learned it in the jungle throughout this course. But there's many different variations of the plant bath diet. The important thing being that it's consistent. So if you're going with like the evening time of day, try to do that every time. An important thing with the plant bath diet is that you let the essence of the plants dry on you and don't wipe it off. My favorite time to do the plant bath diet is before bed, so you can actually continue to receive songs and messages from that plant in your dream space, which can be very important. Those are just two examples of dietas where you can receive your own songs. Another wonderful, just, and I want to reiterate the important thing with plant dietas, which we'll keep getting more in depthly to throughout this course, is that they do have a beginning and an end. I have seen many times like the experience of being in dieta and interacting with these plant spirits can be so intoxicating and mind altering, right, as it were, and exalting. It can be so exalting that we can almost become addicted to the diet. I've seen that a lot, especially in the context of like ayahuasca diets, even like dieting in general, like cleanses, right? Because we're clearing out our vessels to receive songs and like getting our stuff out of the way. Like I've definitely seen it where people can almost become addicted to the process of dieting and being in a perpetual dieta. But it is important to have a beginning and an end, so that a finite one set up ahead of time before you begin your plant baths or begin your ayahuasca diet or begin your practice of like meditating every day under the tree at the same time. So that you can then have time to process that, like what came through, and weave it together as well and clarify what came through in the context of your guideposts that we went over. My last and final kind of traditional indigenous practice for receiving your own songs and toning from the plant nations and from spirit, benevolent spirits in your ancestral DNA, is to just simply seek out nature, at her potent times and at the times that are potent to you, at the times that are important to your ancestors that you're trying to access, and at the times that are important to the plants, if plant songs is what you're looking to receive. And so an example would be going out, say I want to receive a song from Bobinsana Nation or Mimosa Nation. Okay, we've talked about how Bobinsana and Mimosa come out most strong in the evening and the transitional times, so morning, dawn, and evening. You can smell their smell strongest, you can see their puffballs strongest, like that. And just going and having a quick nap, every single day, like in the evening under the mimosa tree, and receiving through your dreams, or meditation, if silent meditation is your way, receiving in that way. And just simply being, with the plant nations, or simply being with your ancestors, simply being with yourself, like that, is a very traditional and ancient way to receive your own healing sounds and songs, like that. And again, consistency is going to be key with that. So a song I've received for cradling, for healing, also for rebirthing, so like anything that's like connecting back to that original ocean womb, rebirthing, healing for survivors, birthing anything new. Birthing, again, sounds so cheesy, but your new self, your works, all that stuff. Okay, with this song you'll hear like the mama and the papa. But for example, this came to me when I was pregnant with my son Amaru, and so like I'll sing it now with his name in the middle, so you can see like that's kind of how I cradle the name of like the client, as it were. Or if we were like in a group, in a circle, like each one, we can go around each one like that, and sing in rounds and kind of like layer the protection and the cradling vibe around them. Oh, may Papa, my way to my way to know how. Oh Lord, oh, oh Lord, oh, yo no, hi, Amaru. Oh Lord, oh, yo no, hey. My way to Adi Kiri 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 Kiru. My way, hey, to know how. Oh Lord, oh, oh Lord, oh, yo, no, hi, mama. Oh Lord, oh, yo, no, hey.
Just want to just breathe with you all. Just honor you all with a short honor song, if I may. Ya, 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 we haya we ya we haya we ya we hayo we ya we hayo we haya we haya we ya Yehunate kame. Thank you, Creator. Thank you, Creator. Chokwe Otesia. Thank you. Se imetem waiwarim. All my relations, I honor each and every one of you with the honor song, with the honor prayer, as we come together to bring forth what is needed in the world right here, right now. I thank you, incredible souls, Brittany and Michaela, for all the beautiful work that you do in the community. And I honor you. So this prayer is for you as well, with all my heart. Chokwe Otesia.